Horology, Munich, 1885. Herr Friedrich Thiessen receives an unexpected visitor in his Munich workshop, an Englishman by the name of Mr. Ethan Barris. Mr. Barris admits that he has been attempting to track him down for some time after admiring several Thiessen-crafted cuckoo clocks, and was pointed in the right direction by a local shopkeeper. Mr. Barris inquires as to whether Herr Thiessen would be interested in making a special commissioned piece. Herr Thiessen has a constant stream of custom work, and tells Mr. Barris as much, indicating a shelf of variants on the traditional cuckoo clock that range from simple to ornate. "I'm not certain you understand, Herr Thiessen," Mr. Barris says. "This would be a showcase piece, a curiosity. The clocks are impressive, but what I am requesting would be something truly outstanding, das Meisterwerk, and money is absolutely no object." Intrigued now, Herr Thiessen asks for specifications and details. He is given very little, some constraints as to size, but still rather large, and it is to be painted solely in black and white and shades of grey. Beyond that, the construction and embellishment is up to him. Artistic license, Mr. Barris says. Dreamlike is the only descriptive word he uses specifically. Herr Thiessen agrees, and the men shake hands. Mr. Barris says he will be in touch, and a few days later an envelope is delivered containing an excessive amount of money, a requested date of completion some months away, and an address in London for the completed clock to be shipped to. It takes the better part of those months for Herr Thiessen to complete the clock. He works on little else, though the sum of money involved makes that arrangement more than manageable. Weeks are spent on the design and mechanics. He hires an assistant to complete some of the basic woodwork, but he takes care of all the details himself. Herr Thiessen loves details, and he loves a challenge. He balances the entire design on that one specific word Mr. Barris used, dreamlike. The finished clock is resplendent. At first glance it is simply a clock, a rather large black clock with a white face and a silver pendulum. Well crafted, obviously, with intricately carved woodwork edges and a perfectly painted face, but just a clock. But that is before it is wound, before it begins to tick, the pendulum swinging steadily and evenly. Then it becomes something else. The changes are slow. First, the color changes in the face, shifts from white to gray. Then there are clouds that float across it, disappearing when they reach the opposite side. Meanwhile, bits of the body of the clock expand and contract, like pieces of a puzzle, as though the clock is falling apart slowly and gracefully. All of this takes hours. The face of the clock becomes a darker gray, and then black, with twinkling stars where the numbers had been previously. The body of the clock, which has been methodically turning itself inside out and expanding, is now entirely subtle shades of white and gray. And it is not just pieces, it is figures and objects, perfectly carved flowers and planets and tiny books with actual paper pages that churn. There is a silver dragon that curls around part of the now visible clockwork, a tiny princess in the carved tower who paces in distress, awaiting an absent prince. Teapots that pour into teacups, and minuscule curls of steam that rise from them as the seconds tick. Wrapped presents open, small cats chase small dogs. An entire game of chess is played. At the center, where a cuckoo bird would live in a more traditional timepiece, is the juggler. Dressed in harlequin style with a gray mask, he juggles shiny silver balls that correspond to each hour. As the clock chimes, another ball joins the rest until at midnight he juggles 12 balls in a complex pattern. After midnight, the clock begins once more to fold in upon itself. The face lightens and the clouds return. The number of juggled balls decreases until the juggler himself vanishes. By noon it is a clock again, and no longer a dream. A few weeks after it is shipped, he receives a letter from Mr. Barris, offering his sincere thanks and marveling at the ingenuity of it. "It is perfection," he writes. The letter is accompanied by another exorbitant amount of money, enough for Herr Thiessen to retire comfortably if he wished. He does not, and continues to make his clocks in his Munich workshop. He thinks no more of it, other than a passing thought of how the clock itself might be doing, and where it might be, though he assumes incorrectly that it remains in London, particularly when he is working on a clock that reminds him of the Wunschtraum clock, which was how he referred to it during the more troublesome parts of its construction, uncertain whether or not it was a dream that could be realized. He does not hear from Mr. Barres beyond that single letter.